Thomas, we have a lot to talk about.
God.
We have a lot to talk about. I'll be honest, I've been looking forward to this since before I reached out to you. I've been looking forward to this.
Well, I'm flattered.
So to set the stage, I came across your name in reference to the auditor controller situation with Karen Paz Dominguez.
Yes.
And so I reached out to you through that. How did you get involved in that? Do you want to take me back to the beginning and kind of set the scene for us?
Once upon a time. I have been aware that something just, there's a lot wrong in the way the county is run. We'll just throw it out like that.
Fair statement.
And when KPD, I assume your listeners are up to date.
She came on the podcast and laid out her case. Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, hit the archives to catch up.
Yeah. If you're not familiar, go back, listen. It was a good podcast.
So when she first took her 3 minutes of public commentary, I believe she mentioned.
That's a professional right there. You coughed away from the mic.
You
are a pro. Okay.
Yeah. Well, music and theater training, a lot of mic work. So when she first took those 7 minutes of public commentary, I was just like, oh, hello there. Like, this is going to cause a feeding frenzy amongst all the people who don't want to be held accountable. So I just watched. And I've been watching this develop passively through media, through just, people I know in this small town, through public records requests, which have grown aggressive recently. We'll probably talk more about how and why. But yeah, monitoring communications, watching the way media things played out, listening to things people inside the county said. And of course, it began to reach critical mass, kind of like middle of last year. Moves started to get made, like real moves, not just sort of being disgruntled. And I watched that play out again through more and more aggressive public records requests, just generally monitoring the situation. And at this point, I mean, everything's right out there on the table. There's some real problems being laid bare, and that's kind of the intro to the whole conversation. Like, I'm sure we're going to talk in depth about what problems and where and how and why.
Absolutely. So your background was you were just watching the situation unfold with the Board of Supervisors. You already knew there was potentially some financial mismanagement. And I'm guessing this was back in 2018, that Board of Supervisors meeting?
More like 16 when I started. When I started engage. So at any point when I've engaged professionally or on a volunteer capacity with the county, you always run into it. Like there is no aspect of the county at which at some point you don't just have to shrug and go, well, that's Humboldt. But do we have to?
In regards to what specifically?
Usually getting like money approved, getting money, figuring out where the money is. I mean, how the money is getting spent. We continually get corrected every, from decades past about, by the state or by the feds. We have to pay this back or pay that back. And when you, for instance, when I was engaging with the planning department on behalf of cannabis farms, the continuing complexity in order to build the importance of the department in the process. I mean, those sort of municipal governmental spread things, it's not like unnatural in any administrative capacity, but when it happens in Humboldt, we usually, I mean, for instance, the consulting firm that was hired in the planning department to manage this has a history of price gouging municipalities through on behalf of municipalities for government services in like cities up and down California, and we hire them.
Manage in reference to the.
That's Exegil.
Okay, and this is in regards to the cannabis industry.
Yeah, this was who the planning department hired on to basically do the staffing and get all these things processed, because before the cannabis industry had to get permitted, they were able to process maybe 5 to 10 conditional use permits in a year. That's just what they had the capacity for.
So very slow process.
Yeah, and just like that was what they had the staffing, because that was how many they had to do. And then over the course of about 4 months, they got just slammed with over 1,000. Right within 90 days, Steve Lazar at the planning department cried uncle. He's like, "Please, can we put a moratorium on? We can't take anymore." And everybody said no. You just do it. He's since moved on. It's John Ford now, but this is years back. So what we have now that the process has become more and more complex for farmers and requires, this $1,000 test and that $10,000 test and this $5,000 engineering report, nickel and diming them all the way through. The bottom tier, the technician level, to review and organize the documents is $66 an hour that we pay these people. Lowest tier. The rest are over 100 an hour, up to 166, I think, is the top end. Our planners don't get paid that much. We don't pay that much through a government job, and they take 72% of the administrative fees that get paid in. Like it's a lot, and there wasn't a competitive bidding process. This is not an unusual story either.
There wasn't a competitive bidding process because there weren't any other applicants, or they felt this was the best one, or there were ties to this one?
I can't decisively say.
Okay, in your opinion, what would you say?
Business as usual. Somebody either got sold a real good bill of sale and just pushed it right through, or because it definitely didn't fall below the line. There is a line below which, like, if it's a small enough contract, you don't have to do a request for proposals. Just somebody can propose the project to you, and if it's small enough, they just approve it.
And this was one of those small projects.
No.
Oh, this was a bigger one.
No, this is all of the cannabis farmers in Humboldt attempting to get their permits at the planning department.
Was there a vote for this, or this was pushed through by the board?
Well, every contract eventually has to get signed by the board. That's what makes a contract a contract. If they don't have that, if it's not directly within a document that's signed by the board, like, that's again where we're starting to run into all kinds of problems with, like, well, there used to be a contract and we just sort of extended the service on a handshake and nobody bothered to update anything, and we don't really know where the status is now. Like, that's a lot of the documents that I'm pulling out of the county is like invoices of like, what?
So I guess in reference to this specifically, I'm just trying to understand how it went through. Did the public have any say on it, or this was purely an internal?
I mean, very likely there was like an announcement that it was going to, like, there was an agenda item And maybe they had to make a public proposal if it was that kind of thing. But no, I mean, there was no nobody knows when it happened. I mean, I have we can get the contract and check the date on it, but it was definitely not a thing that was broadly discussed. Certainly not by the cannabis farmers, right? Nobody asks them.
And so that's how you initially got involved, was this got pushed through and you said, hey, this is a problem.
Oh no, that's something I discovered just recently.
Oh, so this went through.
That's something I discovered later as part of this. Like I knew that they were having staffing trouble for years. I was on the other end of it, like working to get the cannabis farmers' applications as slick as a whistle as possible, so that everything can just get a stamp. Checking all the regulations. I was a consultant for the permitting process for farmers. Like, worked specifically with small farmers, and man, they all got the shaft.
All the small farmers.
The small ones, the mom and pop ones, the ones that everybody's rooting for and trying to make through. They can't get through that process. There's, I mean, almost no chance without like selling half their farm for enough money to get through the process. Like it's tens of thousands now, and your crop has to be on hold. You can't be growing while you're in suspense. And heaven forbid you have any sort of like anything but just a flat 5-acre parcel that's asking for exactly a specific thing. If there's any deviation from that, if there's any history on the parcel, then nobody will touch it, right? Because everybody wants the easy one on the stack.
Yeah, I've heard, as someone not even in that industry, I've heard that there are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, and a lot of red tape, and a lot of
things that are very specific to the cannabis industry. Yeah. It didn't get treated like agriculture. Like there was a very specific demand that was not met. So as one of the people that was part of the big push, if we're talking what got me into all this, we were told that they would be good partners. Like, I come from the cannabis industry. We were told that they'd be able to handle this. We were told that this nickel and diming wasn't the way it was going to be.
They being the county.
Yeah. I was part of the team that dialogued with them. I was the outreach to the farmers, getting the input from them to put in front of the supervisors at the time, the director of agriculture, director of planning. Like we were the ones setting the table for all the meetings, and that was not true. And that made all of my work not just meaningless, but counterproductive to my community. And I take that pretty personally. I'm an Eagle Scout. I don't know what your language policy on this is.
You can say whatever you want to say.
Don't make a fucking liar out of me. So that and that around 2014, 2015, that's when all that started to develop. 2016 is when I got mad about it and started to really watch the internals that led to these failures. And they're the same things that lead to problems all over in the county. It's the same problems in DHHS with like I don't have as much expertise in that area or exactly what the failings are, but there's
like the cash reconciliation.
No, I'm talking about like kids dying.
Oh,
like our DHS has had some miserable failures that I'm not even really like expert enough on to talk about. But there's kids dying. Like there's federal cases. There's like DHHS is a problem. I haven't even gotten to crack that far into besides the money.
Here locally,
here locally,
and this is
our
because kids dying. That's a big claim.
Yeah, it was a tragedy. It has been reported on. Like, I don't know, And now, because it's the digital age and there's a thing present, I'm like, should I just go try and look it up? But the yeah, I don't have like the articles or like the years and specifics. Yeah, there's been some really drastic failures from
Kids
DHHS.
dying. Do you know? I
I
know
mean,
you
like
don't know the specifics too much. Do you
yeah, I mean,
know
it's in the
kids dying?
I
That's
think it's
just a
specifically in
broad
this
statement.
foster system.
Kids dying unnecessarily because of blank. Just I'm pressing a little bit on that just because that's a pretty big claim. It's a
It
bombshell
is.
if it's true.
It is, and I mean, now, do you mind if
No,
I
I do
take
not.
just the
I
moment?
need to get
Because
somebody in here to start googling stuff. For me.
right, yeah.
That'd be very handy.
So I'm just gonna. I'm trying to remember
I just kind of have to press on that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's actually like
people are gonna hear that, and even
DHHS
I'm hearing that, thinking, what the fuck does that mean?
I believe it was. Like in my head, it's also like tribal kids. Foster care. That's going to be my first shot at the Google foo.
And so this is a lawsuit currently taking place against DHHS.
2021. This is the first thing from that. It's on the county website, posted 2021. California Attorney General, DHHS, jointly submit request, blah, 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 and a proposed stipulated settlement. Acknowledge the work that Child Welfare Services has accomplished since 2018. Extends the AG settlement for an additional year. So the 2018 stipulated judgment followed an investigation of specific policies and practices related to child welfare services after concerns were raised in 2015 by local tribes and other community partners regarding inefficiencies and barriers to service in emergency response. Stipulated judgment reflected collaborated effort. Some quotes from Bonta. Since the 2018 stipulated judgment, they have. That gives some
we
can
move
they've
on.
done
Yeah,
to improve. But so that
I'll
was
do some digging
so
on that.
yeah. So in 2015, look for the complaint in 2015 by local tribes and other community partners. Like there have been some big problems that are currently being addressed, and that in 2021, that's what I found on the county website was like, hey, here's all the things we've done to address it. Create an ombuds office So I'm sure there's an expert that can go further into that. I'm not expert in that case. I know of that case.
Okay, so the cannabis ties into this. So now we're in 2016. You're paying attention, and
there's all these problems with the same core causes, and that's a culture of looking away, of not looking very carefully.
And this is a broad theme across county government.
This is so 90% of county workers are killing it. They are showing up, doing the work the best they can, keeping their heads down, and not letting toxic office policies get in the way of providing good service to people of Humboldt County. Like I have to say that every time because I don't want it to feel like I'm picking on every single person who draws a county paycheck. 90% are killing it. Like it's Sturgeon's Law. It was, 90, the reverse of Sturgeon's Law, that is. 90% of everything is crap, according to Sturgeon's Law. The 10% rises to the top. But 90% of the county employees are legitimately showing up and sincerely doing good work that impacts people in a positive way. There are some cliques, however, nestled within departments up and down that are pretty toxic. And they're often in leadership and central departments that affect the way things are done generally. And that's the thing that eventually causes all these problems. Like something towards the middle and the top gets broken. and nobody really wants to say anything, even though there's impacts and even though it's hurting people. Like, or when somebody says something, they're let go. Like that's really what is happening, is the best people in Humboldt County who care the most and are most willing to speak truth to power and step up and say, we have these problems, but what they don't have is the ability to maintain their mental health from the workplace retaliation that happens right afterward. That happens a lot. Since the I guess we should just throw in there, since the creation of since I dropped a whole bunch of documents from the county, and the response created what we've called the Transparent Humboldt Coalition, because THC.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, no, it's subtle. It's thcoalition.org, and it became really clear that there was going to have to be a place to house, display, and explain what all these documents mean. So that's what's being developed now, and I thought I was going to do it alone, but everybody, had a whole bunch of people show up, including a lot of whistleblowers, a lot of people currently working in the county or have recently worked for the county that have some things to say about what's going on in there.
And so these are the PRA documents that were referenced at the Board of Supervisors meeting. These are the PRA documents that you're pulling out that Karen Paz-Dominguez has brought up.
That was the big one. Yeah, at a meeting, she's giving a report that's saying we have all of these deficiencies in our financial reporting procedure. And then, like an amateur from the bench, they ask, "Do you have documented proof of this?" Because KPD is a professional accountant and has all the receipts. She immediately answers yes. And as soon as they say that, well, then it's public record. Like, she wasn't in her seat before I had gone to my computer and was like, "I'll have one of what they're having, please." Like, everything related to what she just said that there is a public document for, I want it. And it's a lot.
And so was that the culminating moment for you? Is that what you needed? Was somebody to come out and say, "Hey, I've got proof of what you had been suspecting"?
No, it was just great. It was an excellent grab to get leverage and to get a very comprehensive view of the problems that are on display. And again, this is one of those things, like, KPD has very specifically called this culture into account. Hate that. The people most invested in not being accountable with our money have showed up in force, and because they feel like they're entitled not to be accountable, and because they're not used to having to cover their tracks because most of them have never been outlaws, they're real sloppy. It's like public documents all over the place. I haven't even dug as hard as I intend to dig. I don't know. Do you want to jump into, like, the machine, the thing?
Yeah,
I'm building?
well, I'm trying to set the stage on that because there are a lot of people in those departments and on the Board of Supervisors who say Karen doesn't have anything. That these PRA documents, I had Virginia Bass as well on the podcast, and we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And not to put words in her mouth, it's also out on the podcast. She said she read through a few of these PRA documents, and it's kind of, there's no smoking gun. Her biggest thing was, if there is actual evidence, why not put out a document and say, here's the evidence, and point to it instead of just releasing hundreds of documents?
It's because there's so many smoking guns. It's a fire hose, is what it is, and it's why all this information needs to be organized and explained. Like, fake paperwork being submitted to the SCO. That's just one of 16 things that the SCO report found that year that Humboldt needed to correct, like, seriously. Like, our multiple departments within the CAO and Central Services departments couldn't justify the rates they were charging the service departments that provide the actual services to Humboldt for their services, for the administration of the money. There, in that report, this is 2020, the personnel director couldn't provide any justification that they had done their job, and so their salary had to be written out of the cost plan.
Whose salary is this?
That's the I hate to name names, and sometimes things have changed and a lot's been corrected. But the name of the person isn't referenced in the document either. So it's just the personnel director at the time.
And the SCO report is what is that?
This is in if you go into PRA 22-194, you can find it through Humboldt Next Request or through a link on our site if you prefer to do it anonymously. There is a document that is Humco Field Review from the SCO's office, and it lists 16 recommendations that are recommendations. Your people can't see me air quoting, but
if they watch the video, they can. They'll see it. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, there's. I mean, it's serious.
So is this just an external? What does SCO stand for?
That's the state controller's office. Okay. That's the state folks that do what Karen does for the county.
And so this was an outside investigation into.
This was a field review. I will pull up once again the data. Let's see. Okay.
And so this was an investigation by the SCO, the state.
This was a field report after an investigation of documents that were delivered. Let's see. Okay, 22-194. Cost plan. Humboldt field review.
We don't have to go too far into it. We can kind of, just because there's going to be a lot of dead air if we're pulling stuff up you and me. Unfortunately.
Well, the system is remarkably fast, but the very short version is that like 16 very strong recommendations, none of which were contested by the county.
Recommendations in regards
except for some of the cannabis things. Money handling, and reporting.
Not even the
like,
AC's end. This was
the count. These were no. These were named department and divisions. Most of them were under the CAO's office. There were a few under DHHS. Some people can look up the document. It's all in there. I do like to be reading right off the document if I'm going to be, calling stuff out.
Yeah.
But like the I believe it's a fund that provides insurance for parts of the county employees. Of course, the parse debacle was listed there of like, what is this crap document you've sent us? Okay, we'll very kindly accept this very old data, but come on. That was basically the SCO's response of like, this document you gave us does not count as what we need. Well, they were very kind to say, not to say like, what the hell? Just like they were in the media piece when they're like, they described very carefully what their position was, and then Ryan Burns, in one of like 5 follow-up questions I've ever seen him make, was like, but to be clear, was it a forgery? And the SEO's office is like, we have said what we're gonna say. No more, no less. Like, very carefully worded statement to, like, they were being diplomatic.
And so this took place when? This was in 2020?
That report was in 2020. There's stuff even more current. Like,
And that was
it's
in response to allegations against the AC's office, I'm guessing.
oh, in
What
2020,
prompted-
no, that was just the state's field review. That
Oh,
was
this is just an
that was
annual
just
thing they
that
do.
was- I don't know if it's annual, but it's I think Karen requested she's requested a lot of investigations and a lot of things from the state. I don't know if this one specifically was requested or if it was automatically triggered by something or it was on a regular schedule. That's usually not the part of the report I log into my memory.
So, back to these PRA documents, the argument of there not being a smoking gun, you're saying there is, and it's just dispersed throughout
It's
all of the information.
Yeah, it's just that there's so much wrong. Like, is this the normal level of wrong that we're okay with? Like, that's really what it comes down to. Is like, I mean, until recently, our departments didn't even line item their budgets. Like when I look at budgets from 10 years ago, it's just lump sums. Nobody knows anything about what was happening. The trust funds. Ah,
I don't know anything about the trust funds. I haven't heard that come up yet.
So, it was APD in one of her local elections answered one of these when, like, somebody's like, "Hey, what happens when a whistleblower does a thing?" And she just used an example of a thing that happened.
Who is this? APD?
KPD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in her
Karen Paz Dominguez.
Yeah.
Just so people, if we keep doing abbreviations, they know.
Right.
So KPD, yes.
It's such a long name with so many.
Yeah, it's easier to say KPD.
I haven't done enough vocal warm-ups to just nail that tongue twister every time. Sorry, KPD. So, in one of her local election act answers, she was asked about what happens when a whistleblower says, "Hey, there might be something wrong here," and she listed exactly what happened in one case, and by one case I mean a multi-departmental habit of just keeping a slush fund handy called a trust fund, like with a straight face and unironically, trust fund. Yeah, a departmental trust fund where they just kept money that was extra.
What department was doing this?
All of them. I mean, I don't know. It was done broadly
across multiple departments.
It was just a thing, a habit that people got into that was against the law.
I was going to say, are they allowed to have a slush fund?
No, they're not allowed to have a slush fund.
Or do they still currently have these slush funds?
No, it got fixed, and or it is in the process of being fixed, or being there is a way to get it approved, which now if people feel like they need these kind of like departmental reserves, they can get it approved.
But they were doing this under the radar.
But they were just doing it. Yeah, they just had like an extra fund, with a couple of grand, couple tens of grand, just extras from the budget, bits here, bits there, just sitting there. That's supposed to get put back into the general fund, recirculated, rebudgeted, and reapportioned for county services, and not just sitting in the department, like unmonitored. These are accounts that were not reported, right? They weren't part of the audit paperwork. They were side funds
that nobody knew about except for the
people
department.
Knew about them, but nobody told certain people, like the auditor, for instance, or the third-party auditor, or the state controller's office, or anybody who holds my tax money accountable.
And that is in those PRA documents that are released.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, that's in the media. That's in.
That's well known.
Yeah. That's on.
Or at least out there. I shouldn't say well known.
That's over on Lost Coast Reposts. Or outpost. Their elections page. Like one of the answers was how she found and fixed hundreds of thousands of dollars worth spread across multiple departments of just slushy money.
Nobody's talking about that.
And because the whole smokescreen is no smoking gun. It's just that it's all that bad.
So is the problem here that Karen is pushing back against that? and that's why they want her out.
Yeah.
Because they're doing pretty. They're doing. I don't know if I should say it pretty good, but there is a serious movement against her. And what I'm struggling to find out is that warranted? Is she not efficient at her job, or is she pushing back so hard that they're just trying to kick her out to get back to the way things used to go?
Well, nothing is simple. And nothing,
unfortunately, right? It'd be nice if it was black and white.
Yeah, nothing ever has just one reason. Because let's not forget, she's female and she's South American. She
Do you think that plays
has an
into
accent, and not with everybody, but not with nobody. One factor or another, or just that good old Humboldt nativism of like, you're not from around here.
That's a real thing. I've talked to people on here that have brought that up.
In the course of me stumping for KPD, I have had people say, "Well, you weren't born here. Why are you getting involved?" I'm like, I've been here for 20 fucking years, people. Like, my child was born, is being raised, and will be here his entire life. Like, this is from someone who claimed no home for a very, very long time because there just wasn't a place that I thought that was worth investing in. That then, is here now. Like, Humboldt's a special place. I'm invested in it. You don't get to say that it doesn't count because my birth certificate says somewhere else. That's dumber than racism. Right? Racism can at least like try and lean on some pseudoscience of like, well, maybe melanin makes you dumb. I don't know that I don't even understand the theory there. But to then make it like, well, no, it's about where your mom was when you were born. Like, what are you even talking about now? Anyway.
So in regards to the race and sex thing, do you have any experience that would lead you to that, or this is just from your own perception of the situation? Here we go.
Because it's not documented, I don't feel comfortable always like bringing it up. But from personal observation. Okay, so one of my background specialties is communications analysis. I just listen and watch and can parse out a lot of nuance from what people do and don't say. That's just part of the training of communications analysis, and yeah, I'm just gonna go with a solid yeah. It's in the mix. It's in the mix.
It's a factor.
In the Times Standard editorial where they endorsed KPD's opponent, they even said, like, was racism and feminism a factor in this? Maybe. Like, or in all this friction, maybe. Like, that was the editorial board's response, was like, maybe. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go with yeah. Like, from what I observed, there are elements of this that are sexist and racist. I wouldn't call it the driving force.
But it's a player.
But it's something that makes people easy to recruit into hating on KPD. And that's not just like within the cliques of people within the county we're talking about. That's just like makes it easy to rally a certain section of our population that we all kind of side eye, right? We all know that there's a bunch of racists in the county. They're not quiet about it. Like,
I didn't know that. But I don't. To be fair, I don't get out a whole lot. This is my outing, and I wouldn't. I would have a racist on here just to talk to them and get their perspective, but I haven't yet, so it's not in my purview.
Yeah, I mean, they were running counter, not even a counter protest, like just making trouble at the BLM rally in McKinleyville, for instance.
Oh, I have heard about that, I guess, in reference to McKinleyville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was like, well,
it's dotted all around the county. I mean, It's Sturgeon's law again, just applied to humanity. 10% of everything is kind of shitty. Like, just dotted around the county, everybody has that racist cousin, that racist uncle, that racist buddy, or that guy that just buys into all the weird conspiracy theories.
And so all that is playing into this push against KPD. These are all factors that are culminating in that.
Yeah. I mean, these aren't. There's no one thing, but when you push a certain sort of narrative, especially against a woman of color, like that is who gloms onto it. You know, aside from anyone else who's taking your position reasonably, there are people who will just rah anything that's boo woman of color. You know, fuck that woke shit. No, that's that's who's showing up to the party. I mean, the Macbeths. I mean, if I'm going to name names, like, guys said some things in public. I mean, just Rex Bone has made a bunch of racist comments in public that he's had to walk back.
He did have that Mexican joke. Somebody was just telling me about that
the
other day.
Didn't he though? Like, he gets a lot of shit for it, and I don't hate on Bone like other people hate on Bone. Like, he represents his community. He does a lot of good work, but he does hold some culturally outdated views potentially.
There is a lot of friction specifically between him and KPD.
Isn't there though?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been at odds for a long time now. I mean, it's just his reflexive habit now. I don't even know if he'd know how to do it right. But the problem is, so the real problem comes, like, all of these people are citizens. All of these people have their rights, and they have their ability to go rah wherever they like, with the specific legal exclusion of the use of county government funds, premises, time. And they cross that line. I'm suing the county. By the way, like other piece of all this, I have sent a notice of the letter of intent to sue
on the
grounds that they have used government time and premises in violation of their own policies and potentially state and federal law. I mean, that's the state and federal laws often like have partisan language thrown in there, so I'll leave it to the lawyers to say which laws they violated. I know that for a fact they violated county policy, because that's real plain and simple language. And again, because it's a legal case, that's part of why I'm dancing around a little about like naming names and things, like, because there's a legal case involved, and I want the county to have the option to do some of this with some dignity. The door is still currently open for them to just quietly apply their actual disciplinary procedures, and we can all just walk away better people, rather than dragging it all out into the media and into the courts. And
I think it's already there. Most of it, not necessarily your case here. I hadn't heard about that, but a lot of this has already been dragged through the media.
Yeah, and the thing, I dragged through the media in a specific, coordinated, and intended way.
That's the problem, right? There's nobody speaking out online for KPD, which, if this is all true, if what she says in the PRA documents all show what is said to be shown, then it does seem apparent that there is a concerted effort against her, which is why it's almost hard to believe that she is 100% in the right, because you have all these articles written against her, all these people on the board speaking against her, all these department heads speaking against her, all these vote of censures, these votes of no confidence. Like, there are a lot of people speaking out against her and against what she's saying.
I don't discount that. I really don't. I do know where those people are getting their information, though. And then we're back to a small group of toxic people, right? That are pushing this narrative hard. And I have people willing to testify that they have done things like pressure county employees to run against her.
You have that documented, and somebody willing to testify for
Yes.
that.
I mean, there's
And this pressure is coming from.
Yeah. Well,
I know.
I'm gonna.
I had to push a little bit just to see if that was going to come out.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
but that's also like that's also protection of the sources that have come out. If I say which office it's in, well,
It would be identifiable.
Then they know it's like, oh, well, we only fired 4 people this year. We'll start checking everything.
But you have that. I mean, that's pretty substantial
Isn't it, though?
evidence. Yeah. If somebody's willing to
and it's
testify,
more than one.
you have multiple sources.
Multiple sources. There were meetings where people were told to collect negative feedback on KPD and the Auditor Controller's office. People are encouraged to be as hostile as possible. The AC's office is blamed by leadership for hardships that the rank and file come up to. Like, there again, long email chains of like the boss, somebody complaining to the boss blaming KPD, forwarding it to the AC's office, and the AC saying, well, here's the problem, you didn't file the paperwork. And this happens over and over and over again. And so leadership is getting called out, made to look bad. And when you maybe value pride over service, that hurts. So, and again, it's that culture, that cultural comfort that has been created around these flawed processes, and people don't look at it and called out for it. And because it's happening broadly, these are people who control things like the Workforce Development Board, which has always been a highly politicized thing. These are people who are the information sources for, all the political ties in say Fortuna school districts, or all these things that have spoken up. If you look at it's called social network mapping. Very, very interesting, very long, very involved topic of what that is and what you can do with it, but it's beautiful and juicy and data. But it's really boring to anybody whose brain isn't wired my way.
Give me a quiz notes quick rundown of what social mapping is.
There's an excellent article if you just search social network mapping American Revolution. You'll find it. It's written in an essay format of like a British colonial officer who has been given the magic technology of social network mapping and this tool, and they have all these malcontents within these American colonies. So taking in this case the list of people in these political clubs in Boston and Virginia and all these places that are hotbeds of discontent, they have the lists of the membership. And they just do things like cross-referencing and finding the connections and relationships, and also doing things like in the stories like British, and we've intercepted some communications, which in this world is just like read your Facebook page, and by that, like by the end of the story, spoiler alert, there's like, we should really pick up this Paul Revere fellow. He seems connected to every single one of these clubs, and these 20 people that are also the founding fathers on the Declaration of Independence. Like they seem highly connected and motivated to work against the crown. We already know that by this they're clearly organizing and gathering, and it's going to be a problem soon. That's how you nip that in the bud if you're a British officer and don't want things like an American Revolution. So these techniques are used to find terrorist cells. They're used to find embezzlement schemes. They're used to find corporate espionage. They're used to find it's relationship mapping. So So here we're talking about the machine. Should we go ahead and the Transparent Humboldt Coalition, the thing that is being built there is a data gathering, processing, and analysis bundle that can create a social map. So we're going to basically turn the public record process inside out and scrape all of it, just all of it. We're going, just by putting in repeated things, like you can get their communications, any county issued device. That's all public records, baby. Every app they use, every message they do, what their score on Candy Crush is. It's public records if it's on a public phone. That's my phone, not yours. You're using it. So I get to read all your text messages, just like my kids. Every interaction is then run through an an AI text analysis tool that is equipped with something called NLP, and that's natural language processing. It is the same thing that, say, a company will use when they launch a product and they want and they're putting out some hashtags and testing some keywords and seeing what the general response to various marketing campaigns are. By like the AI will read it, knows what words mean, knows connotations of words, so positive connotations, negative connotations. It can read sarcasm to a certain point if it's sophisticated enough, which just blew my mind when I found that out.
Are you building these tools, or you're using these tools?
Oh God, these are all commercially available.
Yeah, okay.
Some of them
That's
are
what I was
free.
trying to get at. I built an NLP processor. Actually, was going to scrape Twitter data to determine hate speech and,
we're gonna
map
have
people.
to talk.
Yeah, I majored in computer science and cognitive science.
Oh shit!
Those were, so I know what you're talking about. I'm asking these questions so the public can get. I'm following you.
So I have a background in data analysis and communications. Funny story. I'll tell some other time. I stole a master's of communications degree. But yeah. So we can talk some of the same language.
So I was trying to get there because I've only heard like social mapping in terms of like neural network maps and data mining. So I was trying to get at
data mining is what we're doing.
Yes,
this is big data.
This is
big data mining.
Yeah,
this is exactly what I'm doing.
But you don't have
any
specific experience building the tools. You're just using the commercially available ones.
I mean, even the free ones.
There's a ton,
free academically. No, but I'm also hiring professionals to program. Like I have the expertise to work a professional through coding it to do what I want it to do.
Yeah, you're overseeing the project, knowing the direction for it.
Yeah. I can do that. I have enough background that, like, with an instruction manual, I could do it myself. But God, that would take so long.
Time investment. Yeah.
I mean, I suffer from. I benefit from insomnia, so I get 2 work days really in a day. So
that's what I was trying to get at. I was just trying to get a feel for your direct background.
Yeah. So I have enough background that I could follow the coding instructions on any given tool. But oh my God, no! I'm hiring a professional that already knows the tools that I have. We haven't settled on the NLP tool because right now we're working on phase 1, which is just a custom data scraper. It's just a good old Python like web form interaction, anonymizer, sanitizer, and then thrown in a repeat.
Yeah, you're just in the collection phase right now.
Yeah. And I mean, right now the analysis phase is me. and the database is small enough that I can still read all the documents or now the coalition.
You're hand combing these documents right now that you're scraping.
I have been, yeah.
Okay.
But also, like, a coalition has formed. Forums have just gone up. People are also pulling out documents and being like, "What the hell is this one? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet." So we've just launched a forum on the site where people are able to, like, start pulling out documents and talking about that. There's but yeah, like currently it's just been me pulling out, like, this one is one where we violated the state constitution with an illegal loan.
So you're applying these tools to county documents in the hopes of finding more mismanagement, more.
No, we're gonna find the clicks. So
you're trying to find the connections between people in these positions.
Yeah, we're gonna find. So First, again, because I don't want people to feel like I hate everybody with Dawson County paycheck. The first and most common thing that this system will do is going to be highlight people that are crushing it, that are doing the hell out of their jobs, because they will have green lights on every check mark. They will, like, every interaction, they will have, because you can weight positive and negative interactions. You can track the process of, like, and then the project died over at this desk, and you can also see, oh, look at the stack of projects that have died over on this desk, and then you can see, look at this hero over here that has rescued 10 of these projects off of this desk. That's the sort of thing that we're going to be able to track with the second, with the cap tool, and that one I have settled on. It's called maltego.com. It's got a free version, folks, like, commercially available. Just go nuts. And that program terrifies me. That like, every time I use that, I am staring into the abyss where privacy used to live.
I don't think people realize just how vulnerable everything is once you are connected to the internet.
Nobody reads their terms of service.
And especially what freaked me out when I was building that tool for Twitter is just how willing they are to give you the information.
Oh yeah,
just how willing. And
pennies.
It's information on everyone.
Pennies.
I didn't even have to pay, because I was a student at the time, so they were just going to give me basically unfettered access to the API and let me scrape for whatever keywords, accounts related to certain things, whatever. And anybody can do that. You just have to know it's available. Yeah. Well. So in doing this, doing this, what are you hoping to find through these connections once you build this map and find who's talking to who and who's doing what?
So we'll be able to find. So if you find a cluster of people who, in between themselves, only have positive interactions or very limited negative interactions, but they do seem to have targeted, as a group, positive and negative interactions in other things, then you've found a clique. And then, and I mean, when I talk about the old boys networks, like that's what people reference. That's what that means. It's a clique of people.
This is the good old boys club.
Who don't hold each other accountable and actively attack people viewed negatively by anyone inside the group. Right? That's an old boys network. Your enemy is my enemy. Your friend is my friend. Right? Somebody did my buddy a favor, and so these are not unnatural social connections. It's the way our brains are wired to go, but it's not appropriate in government work. Right? It's a great way to have a community on a hill. Right? If everybody knows what if we're talking academically about it, we would be talking about, like, social credit. How much someone has put in socially into a thing, but that doesn't always translate into effectively managing tax money, because that's relationship management. That's people's feelings. That's doing them favors, and sometimes that favor is not holding them accountable for screwing up, and so they'll do it again because they didn't learn a lesson. The lesson they learned was, I have a friend who's not going to call me out. Or the lesson they learned is that person who was calling me out is going to get shut out by all my friends. Right? That's a toxic workplace environment. That is a recipe for widespread failure.
So what is the hope in doing this? Once you've got the connections, is the hope to find more documents surrounding that, like giving you a place to look to find evidence to bring forth litigation?
Well, I mean, it already did that once, right? Like, I've already got enough through whistleblowers and documents to demand. So the lawsuit, like, if we don't get to do this with dignity, what I'm going to be demanding is what's called a writ of mandamus, and that is, hey, the government has not applied its own rules to itself. It should do that. What do you think, Judge? I agree. Stamp. And then they go and review and apply their own rules to themselves, usually with some state or court ordered observer to make sure they don't screw it up again. That is one way to redress any of these things. Some of them are a matter of federal money. I mean, some of them are going to be legitimate federal cases, depending on how much bubbles up. Depending on what all these problems have, like a lot of them, there's already corrective action being taken, like things that have happened in the last couple of years on KPD's watch. There's a lot of corrective action currently being taken. People aren't very comfortable with that because it's very widespread. Again, this isn't like a small conspiracy. This is ruffling a whole bunch of these clusters of people across county government, groups that don't even necessarily like each other, but are all invested in not having them or their friends being held accountable for one of these just fire hose of violations. I mean, I haven't even gotten all the documents yet. I'm only almost halfway through everything that was identified and is still being processed by the AC in the county and being redacted and all that. I've only gotten the things that were the easiest to get out. That they don't have to redact names, or they don't have to pull put it through county council to make sure it's legal to put out. This is just the stuff that was easy. And it's almost half. Like the last half, like just gonna keep getting worse because it's gonna be finally the stuff that I'm gonna have to pull teeth for. So yeah, I mean, there's gonna be legal ramifications, maybe electoral ramifications. There's gonna be I just want my county to run.
So what is the why? Again, what is the why for the social map? Because that's obviously, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Is it just for the public to see these clusters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not because you already have the proof for litigation.
So that I'm just not a crazy conspiracy theorist with a Charlie map, that I have like displayable data. This is the problem. This map, these red clusters, these things here, if this was a computer network, you would be replacing those servers, or at least giving them some heavy maintenance. Like, what the hell's going on with the operating system? It's another thing. That same technology does the same mapping of computer clusters for social network clusters. It's all the same tech. We're gonna really geek out on the computer science at some point, I'm sure. but yeah, just so that I'm just not just another crazy conspiracy theorists, like blah blah blah, old boys network really screwed around. Like, no, it's not a myth. It's not just like the fog. You can see it. You can grab it. Like, it's right there.
Because that's how people are going to paint. I'm sure you've already been painted that way to some extent.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Like, there's already been a concerted effort to discredit things I say, and because I'm very careful about what I say and always have documentation to back it up, boy, it sure blows up real fast. Because, like, blah blah blah, show some proof, blam, here's a document. This is what I was talking about. This thing right here, and that's just because of, I guess, who I am as a person.
You sound a lot like KPD in that regard. That was a recurring theme that she brought up. Was, well, I'm not going to attach my name to it unless I know for sure.
Yeah, it's called integrity.
That is a foreign concept nowadays.
You can't train it. See, okay, so one of the reasons that this big media push has been easy, aside from all these factors, and aside from that it's people who already have long-standing media connections, it's that Karen's a really good accountant. She's a really good accountant. She's a great auditor controller. She's everything I want there. What she's not is a good politician.
Her public facing, it can be misconstrued. She goes about, yeah.
It's true. She's very sincere. She's far too honest for her own good. It's not what people expect from a politician, and so she doesn't know how to get these things out in the media. And also just the apparatus of media is 100% against her. We live in first headline, first story, maybe a correction or an update, no follow-ups. And if there is a follow-up, it's because somebody is constantly poking at your reporter. It's because somebody is actively putting it out there, right? Because I mean, reporters are busy. Journalists, like especially print journalists, like they've got 4 stories on 3 deadlines, like, and their editors not paying them to jump down rabbit holes and see what might be there. No, they need a reporter out on this other story right now. So I get that, but I'm not a journalist. I'm a concerned citizen that has the time to dump into this, and that is motivated enough by pure vengeance, frankly, that I'll burn the money. That's fine. Vengeance should be costly. If it was free, I would do it all the time. God forbid I made money on vengeance. Ugh.
It does feel almost like a conspiracy, though, even in talking about it when you start to say, yeah, the media is against her. Yeah, all these public facing individuals are against her.
It's not that. See, again, we're talking about the apparatus of the media is set in such a way that any story that is long and involved and takes multiple follow-ups and is only sensational at the beginning, like, there's no payout. Nobody's going to click on the 4th story in the series of what the hell went on with the Parse program.
So you're saying in regards to the media, it's not so much that they're inclined to go against KPD, it's that the incentives are there to go against it.
Yeah, first. And second, I mean, we have, as an American culture, leaned hard toward access journalism versus investigative journalism, right? People have their sources. They give them good things. They don't want to cross their sources or lose that access, right? So, and again, some of that's just human nature. Some of it is a little self-serving and just part of the career. But so you don't piss off your sources. So it means that certain people have access. And the thing is, this is once again, when they're gaining that access in an official capacity, that is over the line. That's what I'm suing for. If off hours without their title attached on their personal device, they are saying things to a reporter, fine. Awesome. Any violation of one of those notices, if you're doing it from your office on county time, with a meeting with 2 other county employees, to get a negative document out there as soon as possible, even maybe before Karen has gotten it in more than one instance, for instance, well, now we're talking about using, diverting, or denying government resources in order to accomplish an electoral goal. That's fucking illegal. That's a person in the government putting their thumb on the scale using my tax dollars, right? That's not okay.
And so in the case of your lawsuit against the county,
yeah,
you have witnesses
yeah.
willing to testify. That's huge. Do those witnesses have proof, solid proof, or is it just their testimony?
I have been pointed at documents. The thing is, they can't be made public because most of them are under personnel, right? Or are like undercover of county council. They're the sort of thing that can be brought out in a lawsuit's discovery phase, but can't just be like, hey,
throwing it out there.
County Public Records, I would like, yeah. One fun thing that I do is that it's a link called Who's Asking, and that is years back and every week the coalition requests the list of who made a public record request, what they requested, and what they got. Because, it's nice to know who wants to know. Plus, it's questions that we may not have thought to ask that all go in the database. Like more communications, the more raw data, the better, right? Especially for these large analysis projects, this big data stuff. I didn't realize walking in that you had this background, so I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Let's see. One thing we were finding in those PRAs. Let me get back on track. The computer data stuff is just so
Enticing.
I just want to.
Yeah, I know. I know.
You find some crazy stuff in there of stuff that people try to request. That was the whole point of that diversion, was that, like, people who know that they can't get the documents, but they just want to make the request. I see a lot of Ryan Burns in there, but like, I would like this personnel document. No, you can't. But you got to ask just in case it slips through, right? Clearly there's a whole host of other politically motivated and targeted public records requests against KPD in those lists. And there's also things like, there's one, but it's not even a records request. It was just somebody accusing someone of murder. They were just using the public records to, like, the county listed this as a suicide, but I know for a fact it's not. I just like telling this whole story. It's not a request, but it's in the public records list now.
You're just like screaming into the void.
Yeah, just fascinating things you find in public records that are, it's all humans trying to interact with their government at some point. But the how and why of it sometimes is fun. But yeah, there are lots of things that you just can't get in a public records request, and seeing what gets denied in a public record request is interesting too, right? What data gets redacted? That's also data. Yeah, pro tip, at the end of your public records request, always ask for an index of all redacted items, and just like a list of what they were and why they're redacted. Any data is data. So I can get to them through a lawsuit, though, right? Through the process of discovery, the court can get to all of it, right? I can subpoena people who are working in the county and can't talk about what they're doing for fear of retaliation, or because they're working under an NDA, or their management level, and they're bound not to speak about certain things unless I subpoena them. So there's a lot of things that aren't easily, and it's good that they're not, because it's things that could be abused. It's personal information, it's personnel information, it's sensitive stuff. So I am okay with not having full access to every aspect of a county servant's life. They're citizens too, but through the court I can break through a lot of that, which is when I know exactly where to look, because of all these whistleblowers. I know exactly where to look. I know the dates of the meetings. I know things that I will find in the minutes. I have people willing to testify to personal conversations. Right. The only thing you can't really track is two people in a room without a microphone.
Yeah, hearsay.
Like that exists anymore. A room without a microphone. Fun thing. If it's a county device that has a microphone on it, and they've given permission to an app to just use their microphone all the time, to like one of those apps that does that shady, like, grabs it whenever a voice records,
like TikTok
or Google.
Google's a big one.
Right?
Google's a big one.
Yeah, why your search bar always knows exactly what you're about to ask. It's because you just said it out loud. Anyway, so all that microphone data, that's public record if it's been through a county phone. So even
but would you have to you would have to go through that organization to try to get...
Because it's a conversation about a personnel issue. It would get redacted, and rightfully so, unless I'm going through the courts. Right. And so the limits of what we can do with with immediately publicly available data versus what we have to sue to get. And that's also, part of what we're going to accomplish with the coalition is, when we find these places that need correction, litigation can be the answer.
To bring forth
Negotiation
those
could be
documents
the
and
answer.
stuff.
Like after the after this, I have a feeling they're going to take us a lot more seriously. But
Well, I would imagine, because if what you're saying is true,
Mhm.
it sounds like a bombshell. It sounds
Mhm.
like a bombshell. The problem is,
Yeah.
and this was the same problem I was having with
I
Karen, is
I have to
until it's the hard proof. I'm a proof guy.
Yeah.
Like I get the sense you are
100%.
too. I just want to know the truth
Me
because
too.
I don't do well with the bullshit and with the lies. I'm not that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Eagle
And
Scout.
it's hard hearing you say that because I want to be like, oh shit, I'm
But show
hook, line,
me.
and sinker. Yeah, but I got to see the proof.
Amen. And I want to show it to you. I sincerely, like, there was one person that after the conversation, I hung up the phone, I took a deep breath, and then I flat out just Skeletor laughed for 4 solid minutes. Like, I felt balls in my hand that I could squeeze. It was like it's big and there's a lot of it, and I absolutely want to put it out there. But I want it to get fixed more than I want to make a splash with it. So at this moment in time, the county still has the option to do this with some dignity. And if they choose to do so, I don't want to have already sabotaged their ability to. So
Do it with some dignity in terms of
quietly and in-house. Like,
But
as long as
isn't that a problem? Isn't doing it in house? Doesn't that
No.
almost
I mean,
negate what they actually did? Doesn't the public deserve to know on some level? Because if they do it and then they fix it quietly under the rug, isn't that kind of a problem? Don't you think? I mean,
if it's fixed, doesn't
accountability,
matter.
but it does.
I
If
I
it's a
agree.
private, if it was you and me and I did some shady shit and we agreed to do it, hey, I'll handle it. That I agree with. But when it's an elected official, I almost feel like the true power comes to the people when they are aware of it and they see it.
Definitely with elected officials.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
With public servants, I do want to have a softer glove because they are valued professionals with real skills. They didn't win a popularity contest for the most part. There's a few that are just, but we need them. Like, we need them to be doing
we need the
good
good
work.
ones.
Yes,
we don't need the bad ones that we have to
That's
correct
correct.
into doing good.
That's
we
correct.
need the good ones.
That's correct. And I mean, I'm open to a lot of creative solutions that fix the problems. Perhaps replacements in leadership, perhaps just some general shakeups. It doesn't have to be heads rolling down the county steps.
That's what I want to see.
Me too. Me too.
If I'm
but I
being completely
just want to
honest,
be reasonable.
just because I don't like bullies and I don't like people that misuse power.
Amen.
That, like, fundamentally on my core,
Amen.
that's the shit that eats me up at night.
Yeah, there's a punk rock. There's a punk in me with a handful of safety pins.
And that's not to say I don't buy into the whole we need to burn down the system. That level of anarchy is too much for me because I don't think people recognize when they say that in doing that, a lot of good people get hurt.
Exactly.
When you burn down the system, and people don't realize how hard it is to actually build something. It's far easier to just smooth it out and do what it was intended to do in the first place. Function properly.
It is much easier to correct than to
destroy.
Build.
Yeah, destroy and start over.
It's easier to destroy than to do anything.
It's easier, but in the long term, it's not.
And that is why I'm a little cagey and careful about how my hand gets tipped right now, especially in the public eye, because it is so easy to destroy.
And you feel like if you released what you had, it would destroy.
It would hurt the whistleblowers 100%. And those people more than anybody are the best ones in this entire equation. I'm not a good person. None of the people I'm targeting are good people. Those people are just doing their fucking job and don't deserve any of the shit they get.
It would hurt them in the sense that
they would immediately be retaliated against. First and foremost, that is a pattern that has happened over and over and over and over. Like a solid half of the whistleblowers that I'm dealing with have been retaliated against.
So the challenge for you don't want to go public necessarily because you don't want the public to see it. You don't want the whistleblowers to get hurt.
I can take all the heat that people want to give me. I have zero ambition to county rule. I have nothing riding in the I don't get any contracts from the county. I don't draw any paycheck from the county. Nobody in my family does. There's no incentive or threat that they can bring to me other than maybe physical violence. And you know what? I'm a pretty big guy. I see on the cameras. I go to Aikido every week. I try to stay fit. I'm a little extra, but I lift some weights, do my thing. My wife's dad owns a gun store. I mean, if it comes down to it, we got a lot of friends, but I don't think it will because this is all civil discourse and it's all about politics. But I mean, there's a lot riding on it. There's a lot of people's pride riding on it. But I really, really, really have to be responsible with other people's safety and their paychecks and their families' well-being. Right? People. When I showed up and said I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm going to be about it. I'm going to do something about this. People trusted me with information that could implicate them. Right? And
which is huge.
And I'm a fucking outlaw. I respect that. Like I hold a lot of people's secrets, a lot of shit I don't talk about. And that's the level of care that I have to treat that information, right? Because if I let something specific slip that could only be known by a small handful of people, right? Of the dozens that I've talked with, like they get sniped. They get they get iced out of their job. They get the KPD treatment. Right?
I think what I struggle with is it's almost like somebody's dangling the proof that you need right in front of you, like it's there, and you're like, I can almost grab it.
And I feel, and you know what? The moment I can make any of this public, I will go ahead and promise you first tips.
Okay.
Right.
So in order for it to be kept, not quiet. What word did you use? In order for it to be kept diplomatic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What do they have to do in order for it to stay? What are you expecting to get out of it?
Well, first thing is knock the fuck off. in this specific lawsuit, in this specific case, step one is knock it the fuck off.
Off?
Quit using the county chambers to electioneer. Right? Quit leaking documents to the media before KPD sees them. Quit the weekly attempt at going on. You can't call the harpies off. That monkey's already out of the bag.
All the people that are
that they've already riled up and that they've already given this misinformation and disinformation narrative to on county time. They can't unfuck the culture of aggression toward the office that they've fostered for 4 years or more. That's not going to happen immediately without, well, we talked about some accountability. I really, like, personally, really just heads roll down the county steps. Like I want people falling on their swords. I want just carnage. Because this shit is bullshit and it's on my dime. They're all fucking fired as far as I'm concerned. But there are valuable services at play. There are people's lives and livelihoods. There are a lot of people in this crossfire that just got fed a line of bullshit and didn't think to question their friend's integrity. And parsing that from the people who have been actively fomenting this is important. So
And so done quietly in the sense that you wouldn't take it to trial. You wouldn't.
that's how they avoid the court case. There's
Yes.
there's a county discipline book. The when you fuck up, this is county disciplinary measures. These are the things that the county will do to discipline certain levels of fuck up. Sometimes it's retraining. Sometimes it's not retraining. Sometimes it's you're out. But there's different levels for different things, and if it's applied reasonably, that's all I'd be asking for in the court case is writ of mandamus. Apply your disciplinary procedures to this matter immediately, and we're done here.
Are you worried that if it does go that way and it is handled diplomatically and they do that, that they're just going to start fucking up?
No, because that's just on to the next thing for me. That's just the first correction. That doesn't address invoice problems. That doesn't address all of the other fire hose of issues. That doesn't address the complaint on DHHS that we mentioned. That doesn't address any of that. That addresses a group of people putting their thumb on the scale to avoid being held accountable, and that's all. There's
So
hundreds.
that's just one problem
That's
being
just
addressed by the
one
lawsuit.
problem. That's just the most immediate and most egregious that must end now. All of the rest, I mean, it's going to take me a few years to build and analyze the database to my satisfaction. Like, maybe not years. With the pros I got on, maybe a year, 18 months. Like we could get the machine up to minimum viable product and humming. But it's going to take, I mean, this is years worth of change we're talking about. This is an immediate correction. The people keep thinking that my goal is the KPD campaign. No. Like, if Dillingham wins, well, that's just another person on the list whose communications I'm monitoring now. That's just another person whose email I live in. KPD is having her in office is better for the county, and it's better for my efforts, certainly, because she's not going to get less hate. But, I mean, it's one piece of a very, very long campaign that is aimed at correcting that culture that I'm talking about.
And so if it doesn't get done quietly, when would this be expected to go to trial?
I mean,
Because you haven't filed the lawsuit yet.
No.
It's just an intent.
We're still within. Well, we just hit the end of the 10 business days that they had to respond, and I've heard nothing, as expected. So now the paperwork's being prepared, lawyers are being gathered. Like there's phases to it. I've been joined by one co-plaintiff. I expect I might draw others. Totally open to it if anybody wants to come in swinging with me. But no, I mean, funds are being gathered and spent. It's moving right now. Like, I'd like to get something filed by next week, but we're in communication with lawyers to see how quickly we can and should make it happen.
Do you expect them to agree to that and handle it by their own accord? Or do you think it's going to have to get to the point where some heads start rolling for them to actually take notice? To be fair, this might... What?
I'm just giving that question some reasonable thought. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I didn't anticipate the podcast that I did with Karen Paz Dominguez to reach them, and it did. So something tells me that it is more probable than not that this might get to them. I don't know if that's going to do anything.
Sure. No, it's
But do you think it's going to have to get to that point? Do you think they're going to ignore it until people start going down and they say, "Oh fuck, we have no choice but to do something about this"?
Okay, so from what I've observed, their first response is going to be to go quiet and hope I go away. Because if you notice, I don't know if you noticed that last board meeting where, so my my letter of intent was submitted as a public comment to another objectionable item on the agenda,
Which was
which was the Workforce Development Board has a cash hold and they want to write a letter to resolve it. But it was titled Workforce Development Board's Issues with KPD, and attached to it was a quote unquote fact sheet that was just full of bullshit, was called out by multiple supervisors as this is an unacceptable. And I had already, like, that was after the letter of intent to sue, and noticed that some of the supervisors were real quiet during that conversation. And it's because they knew that they fucked up and they were being watched. Like they knew they had to correct the behavior. So I think the first thing they're going to do, and I appreciate it, is knock it the fuck off, because it's unacceptable. They know it's unacceptable, and now they've been called out on it. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. My hope is that the first thing they do is at least not make it worse for themselves. But you asked me what I expect. But I do expect that county council has showed this to them and said, knock it off. And that they've at least taken that part seriously. There's more than one co-plaintiff now. Like it's, well, I mean, me and a co-plaintiff. There's more than one plaintiff now. So do I expect them to then hold anyone accountable for this behavior? Oh, hell no. That's a strong no. There's no unequivocal no expectation, because the whole problem is people not holding their friends accountable. That is the seed of the problem that we're talking about. So do I expect them to immediately and forthwith uproot that whole problem? Hell no.
So you think this is going to go to trial?
I think they're going to make me push harder to get any real accountability. And I will. I mean, again, this isn't just fun and games for me. This is you fucked with my word. You fucked with my integrity. You made me into a liar. Your failure made my assurances to my friends, my colleagues, and my honored elders less true. That's not okay. So there's nothing they can do to make me stop.
And this is all because they fucked with the cannabis industry.
Yeah. They abjectly failed. They smothered it in its crib. They've done lethal damage to the whole industry. I am not confident that Humboldt's cannabis industry will ever flourish the way it should have. I'm not 100% positive it's going to recover from the last couple of years. So, yeah, what am I going to do about it, right? This. The same culture led to those same failures. So I'm going to light that on fire, right? A selective burn, like you do with forest management. Set the whole thing on fire, just the shit that's the problem.
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm big on accountability, and people make mistakes. That's a real thing. And you have to
Right.
give people the room to grow from their mistakes, but
It's
there's
true.
a difference between making a mistake and correcting it and just choosing to play outside of the lines.
It's how I can judge the integrity of a person by what they do when they fuck up. Right. So once upon a time, a long, long time ago, my first foray into anything political or really even like communication analysis, socio-ecological, was through opposition research. It's a very specific line in a political budget or a corporate budget. What you're doing is, this person is going to oppose this thing I'm doing. I need information on them to make them not do that, whether they personally want to step out of my way or not. Right? It's dirty work. It is dirty work. And I don't like doing it. I stopped. It is not the path I chose for my life, but here I am back to it. But one of the core sayings, like one of the things you learn in training is it's never the fuck up, it's the cover up.
That's the
Right?
thing,
It's
right?
not when somebody messes up that you can hit them on because, oh, honest mistake. I took these things to correct it. I honestly corrected my mistake. I apologize to the people I apologize to. If somebody handles a mistake correctly, you never bring it up because the response to it makes them look good. Because good people handle mistakes a certain way. But other people don't. Other people try to hide it. They bully other people into hiding it. They commit worse offenses to hide the thing they did, right? And that's always the one that gets them. That's always the one that gets them. But yeah, I mean it's not the fuck up, it's the cover up. An honest mistake, honestly corrected. That's great.
That's just human nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you fixed the thing. It's fixed now. It's done. It's not gonna happen again.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna make mistakes.
Yeah. I screw up all the time. If I fix it, my wife still loves me. And if I don't, well, I haven't tested the theory yet. I love you,
Don't
Dave.
want to find out.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah. So that's kind of the operative theory on that. And again, it's why I can't just like come in here with 10
blazing.
other people like, I brought my whistleblowers tweet. No, I mean,
You're being very deliberate about how you go about it.
I have to be for the safety of some people involved, because the culture we're talking about is a toxic workplace environment. If this was a private corporation, holy balls, like
It's almost worse though because it's public funds.
it's 100% worse because it's public funds. I can choose not to shop at fucking Starbucks because they have all these workplace issues. I can't choose not to pay taxes.
Yeah. Well,
I
you
could
could.
try.
It would not
I
end well.
could try.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't want to test that theory.
Right. I'll call the Bundys. Ugh. That's the federal. Never mind. It was a thing a couple of years ago, but I don't know how much you follow
The
right-wing
Bundys?
news.
I
Yeah, no,
don't.
it's the guy whose family camped out on federal land, refusing to pay some taxes
Oh,
on
I
his
did. That was in
grazing
Oregon or
fees.
something, right?
Oregon
Why
and
am I thinking
Washington,
Oregon?
and now he's a little darling of the right.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Anyway,
Do you think? I know we kept going back to it being this small group, almost like a cancer in the body, right? It's a small, powerful group.
it's not even a small, powerful group. It's a number of cliques distributed across multiple departments. So some of whom are work well together, some of whom don't. And it can be generally fluid, but not thoroughly. In 2006, there was, maybe it was 2016. I recently discovered that somebody at Humboldt State did their master's thesis work on something very similar. They were tracking power dynamics within the county. I haven't digested their whole master's thesis yet, but a lot of the same names and relationships are popping up.
Is that available online? That thesis?
100% yes.
Where can you find it? I'm gonna have to dig into that.
Dr. Jared Krause. He's now, I believe, Dr. Jared Krause. If I've stalked him correctly, I haven't made contact with him, so sorry if this sounds creepy and you hear this, but I think he's a therapist in the Bay now. If I have stalked his career correctly, his trajectory from there. But yeah, he did his master's thesis in the sociology department on power network tracking, and
Turned it towards the county.
Yeah, and like who could get projects approved and where money was moved. And
Well, that's been something that's been very alarming to me. I've been doing a series of political podcasts, I guess, or bringing people on that have been in the political sphere as of late. And a recurring theme when I've been talking to people outside of that sphere is that, oh yeah, there's corruption, there's mismanagement of funds in the county.
Yeah, we all see
And
it.
it just seems to be a recurring theme that I've hit. But what I don't understand is if everybody accepts that, why is nothing being done about that?
Because we all used to have the same secret.
The same secret of.
Cannabis. We all used to have this whole county used to run on a great big secret that we all kept for and from each other for our own safety.
And so you're saying that's the basis for all of this.
I'm saying the reason a lot of this never got called out was because you're a pot grower and you're gonna call that out.
Well, that's true, right? The county has run the cannabis industry is basically the biggest sector of the county. It used to be. But it was huge.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's what ran the economy here was the cannabis industry before it was legalized.
It's what made us recession-proof in 2008. was the massive cash economy here. I mean, it was one of the very few things that wasn't wealth extractive. It was wealth generative. It was something that brought money and cash into the county and kept it there, rather than developed something in the county and the income and profit with it left to outside investors. It was one of the very few things that, like, the Titans of the Hill, they bought at the local stores. They paid local taxes on what they could, and there was just a ridiculous amount of nonprofit donation and things like, that now are tracked as business donations from the people who can make them, and the people who aren't doing the businesses, I mean, can only barely afford. Like, that's just gone now. It's a whole thing in Humboldt that has evaporated. But that whole culture, that need for secrecy, that need not to be seen, gave the government a level of distance from citizen accountability that made all these divergences possible. Right? These aren't things people started doing in the last supervisor's administration. This started in the 90s. Like, that's peeling authority off of the auditor controller's office and beginning to do some shady things with the money. This has been going on for decades. And this is what I'm talking about. It's the culture. It's the way things have always been done. Like, when multiple times with county employees that try to call me to task on KPD, I like, when I call them out on these specific things, they're like, well, she doesn't know what she's doing. That's just the way we do it. I'm like, that's the problem, is that's the way we do it. Don't you understand? What you have just told me is that you're fine with the problem. But because, I mean, if you didn't have a farm, you had family on a farm, you worked on a farm, you sold off a farm, you trimmed on a farm, you ran a school or worked from a school that got hundreds of thousands of dollars from a farm over the course of a couple of years. Like, you depended on these things. And so if you then go start poking at the government, like, you have this huge gaping weakness, this secret that you feel like if the government shines any light on it, will destroy your life, because depending on where you are in that chain, it might. So citizens for decades were very laissez-faire on their government. There were a few that were highly involved that, like, felt like they were safe enough or secure enough, or had entered into that early gray market in medicinal, that could get involved or felt safe getting involved, but even those got slapped down a lot. And of course, there was all the social pressure that you couldn't take those people seriously, those dirty growers, which I like that's changing some. Not fast enough for my tastes, but because the citizen oversight wasn't there, and the county for decades stripped the official oversight out, we have all these inherent habitual problems. People have been trained in illegal methods. Well, that's the way I learned how to do it 20 years ago.
Yeah, I never thought about the fact that all of this shit has really been built upon a shady foundation.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most. It is the most important cultural component of Humboldt County for the last 40 years. Is
Well, it's what we're known for. If you ask
right?
anybody that's not from here
Yep.
and you bring up Humboldt County, they're like, "Oh, weed."
Yep.
That's our connection to the outside world.
Yeah. I mean, then they mentioned the redwoods.
Yeah,
That's
that's always a sec. That never comes first, though.
right. Did you know it's a rainforest? What? But yeah, it's the not only because that's been our cash crop forever, but because culturally it has been ingrained in the culture for better or for worse. And the other half of it is somebody next door to the dirtiest fucking farm in Humboldt County, or as far as they've ever seen, and so their picture of growers is a certain way, and pushing in that same direction. But a lot of those folks own a lot of land, and because they were never involved in that secret or were opposed to it, they had safer access to mechanisms of government. They had safer access to, the basic benefits of citizenship. First class citizens, you might call them. So, and that remains ingrained, and that specific attitude is a lot of what killed the cannabis industry, or has done fatal damage. They're not all dead. There's a lot of them still trucking, and a lot that have gone back to the unregulated market. And there's Humboldt farmers are very resilient. They'll do what they do. Get as many through. My goal has always been to get as many of them through the process, and into a healthy, secure place as soon as possible. County's goal has not been that.
Well, I mean, the fact that it's not federally legal yet is
fuck
just
the
laughable.
feds.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and there's upsides and downsides to that, though.
of taking it
oh
federally legal.
yeah, just like there were upsides and downsides of taking it state legal, right? I mean, Prop 64 was deeply flawed, deeply flawed. The tax structures involved, all these things. It did do some good things. A lot of people aren't in cages now. Not everybody,
A lot of people
but a
that
lot of
shouldn't be
people.
in cages still are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody is out, but there have been some focused efforts, and some of it funded by the cannabis industry. There's, but it didn't do it right. We have seen that in the market. Like there's a wave of suicides in the industry right now. Like has been
Oh, I
for
hadn't heard about
over.
that.
Yeah, well, you don't, because it's quiet. It's people's personal trauma and pain. Families don't like to talk about it. Friends don't like to talk about it. We all know it's happening. Like it's a thing. People are dying. And it's because their farms are stuck. They're going to lose their land. They're going to lose their farm. They're not going to be able to feed their families. They feel like failures. Suddenly, they've had nothing but success their entire life in this, and all of a sudden, it's dry, and then there's a pandemic, and then there's all these other mental health, like crushing weights going on just from living in a society right now. Yeah, it's a lot for a lot of people, and not everybody's taking it very well.
Are you worried that this is going to get buried? That even if you go through with the trial, it's just not going to go anywhere? Because the media is a big component in this.
Well, see, I'm not relying on the media though, right? I can go ahead and hire a blogger. I can get people to write these things. The forums are already, getting these conversations going. It's already, I'm not pulling redheaded black belt traffic numbers or nothing, but attention's there. I'm getting, people are asking. I'm here on a podcast, just talking about what I've been doing. Like, for instance, the media, the traditional media channels aren't equipped to report on this, right? For the reasons we talked about, the business and mechanism of delivering news, especially printed news, right now, is not functional. Our fourth estate is busted. So for stories like this that are single and in depth and complicated and, let's face it, boring. Right? Yay, government accounting. Let's break out some spreadsheets. Woo! Not everybody thinks like that, and I understand, but I'll be excited about it for you. So we can get it out there. I mean, getting word out isn't the problem. I don't have to run a national media campaign. I'm not trying to change the world. I can. Okay, so here's one fun tactic. Just this is in maybe 2 years out. Big data, right? Targeted advertising, right? You can get it. You can target an advertisement to a specific person. I can, with the data, with enough data, only takes 14 demographic markers to de-anonymize a data batch. So I can target county phones, target individuals who I know because of the data are involved in certain things. Very specific ad campaigns, like just my eyes looking at them from every website they visit, like if I wanted to. Or, like, I know that you have this data. Click this button to anonymously blow the whistle, for instance. I don't need a broad media campaign. I need the data, and I can get to it. Or I can specifically target, every voter in somebody's district if I know they have something shady with the documents, right? Click here to read an analysis of how you got shafted in this last election cycle by your elected representative.
Do you think that more people are going to come forward as this becomes more publicized?
Maybe. I mean, maybe. I certainly haven't talked to everybody that knows some shady shit. I'll tell you that. There's definitely more people that know things. Whether they're going to come to me, I don't know. But the thing is, at a certain point, they don't have to.
You
Right?
almost don't even need it. It sounds like in your current situation, it sounds like you've got a lot.
No, it's Maltego, man. So, no, I can find it would save me a lot of time if they did. But there's no stopping this. Like, these
Ball's already moving.
No, I do keep having to tell my data techs, like, no, this is 100% legal. I promise you, this is legal. It's legal because I'm doing it to the government. If I was doing this to a private corporation without their consent, this is corporate espionage. I can't, like, this is all bullshit and I go to jail. Like, I get hit with a lot of fines. If I was doing this to a private citizen, I'm just the worst sort of stalker. Like, just the worst. Right? But this is my government and it's fair game. Right? This is my tax dollars. I pay all their paychecks. I mean, not me personally, because I'm not rolling that hard. But, my money's in that wash. So all of this is fair game if I do it to the government. But yeah, it's the death of privacy.
Yeah. In the one sense, we're lucky that we're alive now to be doing this because you have access to all of that information. Mm-hmm. But it's scary. It's definitely scary. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that as the one collecting it. You get to see a lot of shit.
We haven't even kicked it into super high gear yet. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not looking forward to all the dick pics, frankly. Like, because I know.
You think you're going to have to come through a lot of that?
100%. 100%. There's a dozen guys out there at least that are sending dick pics on a county phone.
Oh my God.
You know for certain. And if you're listening, you know who you are. And I'm going to erase them now and knock it off.
They're
I'm going to
shaking
find them.
In their boots doing that now, if they are doing it. I would hope they'd be smart enough to not do it on their county phone, but putting a lot of faith in people.
Yeah, again, because it's a sense of entitlement. Because they don't think about that this is wrong. They're in a position of power. They have status. This is their right. This is their privilege. They're entitled to this. They have nothing to hide.
See, that feeds back into my desire to see heads roll.
Yeah.
Because when people start getting on that level,
yeah,
it's hard not to.
I knew I had something to hide. I hid it. I knew what to do. But that also means I know all the ways they're going to fail to hide it.
You know where to look.
I know where to look. I know what I had to do to erase myself from from the public eye. And I know they're not going that far. I mean, I had to give up. I'm here under my real name as a citizen now. Well, that was not always the case. That was not always the life I lived. And boy, the bigger the data got, the less it was an option. And now it's just not. Right? There is no anonymity. There's no privacy. There's the illusion of privacy. Except for that
That thing we carry around in our pocket.
data collector that we all have.
What do you make of this lawsuit that is being brought against KPD by the state? You think that's gonna call some things into question, or you think she's pretty well insulated from that?
I think it's such a little thing.
It's the fine is $10,000 for her.
Yeah.
2 $5,000 fines, and I believe $2,000 one for the county.
That was less than one of the trust funds that I saw that got cleared out.
That's less than. That's scary that you just said that. That is less than what the county paid to outsource payroll, which didn't end up working out.
Yeah, Cheryl Dillingham let payroll go out of the AC office while she was the interim AC director.
I didn't know that happened under Cheryl.
After she was illegally appointed in violation of the Brown Act.
You're going to have to expand on that because I did not know that.
I mean that Rex Bone was called out and there was a whole thing.
What is the Brown Act?
Oh, the Brown Act is the legal way that elected officials have to meet and how meetings are done. And it basically keeps people from like making backroom deals. It's the anti-backroom deal act, basically. For official business, there have to be X number of people. It's what sets the quorum. It sets a lot of the rules on how the meetings operate, and it's why they can't just wander from agenda items off to whatever subject they want to do. There's a lot of rules set for how public officials can operate a meeting, and with how they conduct county business, like consideration of an appointee.
And so a backroom deal happened to get Cheryl appointed to the interim AC?
That is a matter of settled law. That complaint was filed and confirmed. It was sustained that was a violation of the Brown Act. Because the standard way is to when an official resigns, an elected official resigns, is to appoint the assistant until the election.
And KPD was the assistant.
KPD was the assistant, but she was also running. So there was a little like, but what do now? Because I mean that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, understandable.
But the thing to have done would be to appoint her. The thing not to do is to call Cheryl Dillingham ahead of time and say, I'm going to appoint you. I want you to be at this meeting because I'm going to appoint you instead. And then make a big show of, but maybe if we want to shake things up a bit, is that Cheryl Dillingham I see in the back there? Back and watch the meeting.
And Rex did that?
That was Rex.
And it's been documented that he called her ahead of time. That's all out there?
It's all out there.
Jesus.
Yeah, but nobody pays any fucking attention. Because who has the phone numbers of all the media?
If this was a movie about political corruption, this would be the point where we get offed. This would be that point. I mean, it feels like that though, does it? I don't know about for you because you've been in this world longer than I have. I'm just stepping into it, and it feels like the deeper I step, the more I fall into this what the fuck is happening mindset. Because hearing you say that, I did a lot of digging to get Karen on. That didn't come up anywhere. That didn't come up anywhere.
Want to pull up the source? I'll do it.
No, I believe you. I mean, it's out there.
It was reported.
It's out there, yeah.
Yeah, that was publicly reported.
To see if
but see, the other thing is, again, like the media apparatus that we have in America, we have a 7-second fucking retention on, like, next headline, blow, look at Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, blow,
that's my
Jenny Thomas, blow, what the hell's going on?
That's my fear, though, is
boring county finances. Oh, it doesn't.
But that's
even
the
get
problem,
logged.
right? Is are people going to pay attention, and on a deeper level, are people going to care? Because if Rex did do that, why is Rex still on the board of allegedly, right? Why is he still on the board of supervisors?
Oh, well, I mean, because it's an elected position, and it happened.
But if he illegally,
I think it happened since the last time he ran, but he always runs on a post.
but what he did, that was illegal, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what?
Well, you don't think criminals can run for public office?
I-
Oh, come on. That's just anti-felon.
You're right. To be fair, I'm 24, so I'm still.
Okay.
I'm a little idealistic still. It
Sure.
hasn't all been chipped away yet.
Oh God.
As I get
I'm so
older,
sorry.
as I
I'm
get
so
older,
sorry. Your beard makes you look older. I thought
Exactly.
you thought you had a little more veneer of
Yeah,
jade.
no. I'm only. If I shave this, you'd be like, "Are you old enough
Right,
to be doing a podcast?"
Is this high school?
Yeah. The beard adds a little protection for me, but that's a problem.
Yeah, isn't it?
That is a
though?
real problem, and I'm a
Isn't it
little
though?
bit alarmed because.
And again, if it was honest mistake dealt honestly and handled honestly, that'd be fine.
But that's what I was going to say. A big problem with this is Rex's name has now repeatedly come up
Oh,
on multiple podcasts, especially in this one, but
Yeah.
on multiple podcasts that I've had, his name
it was,
continuously comes up.
it's a small town, and he's been very well connected for a very long time. So yeah, a lot of stuff has his name attached to it. Good things and bad. I will I try not to be too hard on Rex. Like, he legitimately does good things,
but the
he
bad thing.
also does some selfish, entitled bullshit that sometimes crosses the line with my tax money. And I get it, and it comes from a certain generation, a certain way of doing things. And again, this is all cultural. This is stuff that has been fine for 20 years. This has just been the way that did it, and it's the way Rex got things done. I grew up in Wyoming, by the way. Like, this is not unusual. Like, this is just a lot of how small
Business
towns
as
get
usual.
done. Yeah, business as usual, but not with a $20 billion a year industry. It wasn't. That was not the way to handle that. Slapdash and half-ass? No, thank you. That's why it's dead now. So the way some things get handled is just fine. But there's a set of rules that exists for a reason, and there's a way of doing things that exists for a reason, and a lot of those reasons are modern. Right? A lot of the technology that enables this level of accountability is modern. Right? I mean, the level of interconnectivity of the software between the departments doesn't exist 20 years ago. Right? It's all on paper. It's all printouts. The report stacks are actual binders full of reports.
It's easier to bury information that way.
Oh man. And see, that's the other thing, is it's because there's so much.
Oh, I just spilled down my shirt. People are gonna see that in the video.
Well,
I don't know. I'm worried. I'm very worried. Not. How do I want to say that? I'm very worried that all of this, that what you're saying is true, and that's alarming, and that what Karen is saying is true, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
It is
is.
a problem.
It is. It's leading to waste, to inefficiency. I mean, and again, this isn't like a nefarious movie plot where
It
these
feels
people,
like it.
well, but see, these people don't wake up and think they're going to be the bad guys. Like, really, they've just been trying to work within a broken system for so long that they've developed broken habits, right? And when that's called out, people don't like being wrong. People don't like people discovering that they're wrong, or like a lot of these things, they think they're doing it right. They think they've been trained this way because 20 years ago it got broken, and nobody fixed it because didn't have the resources, didn't have the manpower, didn't have this, didn't have that, so they developed a workaround that was only kind of against the law, and then the law changed and it was definitely against the law, but it's still the way we did it, so it was fine. And then KPD comes along and says, there's a law here. And they say, well, you're inexperienced. This is the way we do things.
Yeah, just push it through.
Yeah, that's the inexperience they're talking about. We'll find a way around it. Well, hold up. Maybe we should just fix what we're doing instead. and nobody wants, that's a hard pill to swallow. The personal accountability. There's people's pride on the line. They've identified with their career for so long. Like it's a big package. Like it's not nefarious. It's not people actively going out and today I'm gonna fuck some taxpayers. No, they're trying to provide a service in the best way most of them know how, and some of them do a very good job shielding things from accountability.
That's arguably scarier than someone who sets out to be nefarious. It's that slow erosion. Those are the people that do real damage. It's never the person that comes out and says, I'm going to fuck up the system. Because you see that, because they're open about it, and you can stop it. It's the one that slowly has their morality eroded or their
one
whatever it
compromise
is.
at a time.
One compromise at a time. Oh, one backroom deal. Well, now there's that dirt, so now somebody else uses it as leverage for another one. It's that slow erosion of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That's what fucks up the system. That's what brings down
and
empires.
That's where we are now. Like we are at the effect phase of that slow erosion because things have modernized, because we have levels of transparency. I could not have automated a public request document.
Digging through so many documents. If it was all by hand.
Yeah. AI NLP text analysis, like 5 years ago, that would have been a lot more work than it's going to be now. Maltego, like, so social network mapping was part of what I did for my studies, and the stuff I was using then, I might as well have had a slide rule, like just pen and paper on a napkin. I pull out this program, I'm like, click. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, this is what? Maltego.com. Go check it out. I'm not sponsored, but go.
I'll have to look into it. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, go just terrify yourself about the death of privacy for a while. And it's free.
What do you make of this Ryan Burns guy? Because he's come up a few times now.
He's a professional journalist.
Would you say he's a good journalist?
Let's define goodness. I'm sure he generates a lot of clicks. He has a great roster of powerful sources, of inside sources, of he's the first person that certain people call with a lot of information. And that's and he's got a reputation for that. I wouldn't call him an investigative journalist, just by his methods and by his stories. He occasionally goes into some depth around the issues at play, gives context. But at the end of the day, I would hey Ryan, but I would call what he and to be fair, what most journalists in Humboldt County are doing as access journalism. Right? They want to have the relationship that gets them the quotes. That's fine. Like that's for certain things. That's it's necessary. But it's not combative.
And they're not willing to push.
Right? Because under those answers are a couple of, I mean, like I said, like I was genuinely impressed when I saw Burns give that follow-up question to the SCO. Was like, but to be specific, was it a forgery? But an investigative journalism would have heard the crickets, and then commented on it. And maybe given some context on other sorts of things that they give crickets on, or why that response, what that means when they don't clarify beyond a certain point. Investigative journalism, pulling documents, but I don't begrudge him that. I mean, it's definitely his job at Loco to get those quotes, right? I don't think Loco is an investigative journalism outlet. So if he were performing deep, grinding, combative investigative journalism, he wouldn't be doing his job. You'd get fired. You'd have to go do a blog like John Chiv, who does do that.
Yeah, I only asked because a lot of the articles that I read for KPD were written by him, and they painted her in a specific light, and I wasn't sure if that was due to an intentional design or if that was just lack of diligence, or he believes that side of the story, so he's reporting on that side, or
Well, those are his sources.
yeah.
And he has shown a willingness to print what they say. And so they give him things. I mean,
And you don't want to burn that bridge.
Yeah,
you don't want to
dude-
be excluded from access.
dude gets clicks. Any KPD article is going to generate a massive amount of clicks just because of the army of flying monkeys that they've whipped up from within the county to go and comment and honk the bully horn on every single article. Right? I'll go in there and just like throw some jabs. Like, here's a document, you're full of bullshit. Here's a document, you're full of bullshit. Follow the link. But or just like, and here is, but whatever, generates clicks. So there's no reason from a business point of view, from an editorial point of view, that there would ever be something else to these. Because if that fire hose stops, well, they've got to find something else to get all those clicks, to drive out those advertising dollars, some of which they get from the county.
Lost Coast in particular gets money from the county?
Yeah, tourism board
pays them.
Yeah, they buy ad space, all kinds of different places. I haven't tracked down
the
all that money yet.
Buying ad space, that gets tricky when you start looking there.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Doesn't it though? See, and again, it doesn't have to be a conspiracy. It's just people acting in self-interest, right? I have a bunch of ad stuff from the county, and there's powerful people with their fingers on the strings that I don't want to piss off. So maybe I should just print what they say and not make their story go. And then,
it's that subtle influence of where am I going to put my money?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that is how that arm comes in, right? It's not anybody being like, well, it's mostly not a bunch of people at a table going, how are we gonna manipulate the media to create this perception? No, it's it is a way of thinking made manifest, right? It is because they have decided that there's no tools they won't use to attack KPD. Then it's just a matter of whatever comes up doing the thing they usually do with it, right? Because they're not using creative strategies. I've repeatedly, and it's a little derogatory, but I've repeatedly called these strategies high school unstable level politics. They're not complex, they're not sophisticated, and they're not creative. They when they find something that works, they spam that button, right? Oh, I have the same problem again. Hit the button again. I do the same thing. It got that effect before. It creates a public perception. It furthers a narrative. It continues to do this. It means that this is another week that no reporter has the spare time to actually do a follow-up on last week's, right? Because see, that's the other thing is because you keep a constant fire hose of negative information out. It's a campaign tactic. There's no room to breathe for the rest. I mean, you hear the saying, a lie travels half the world before the truth has its pants on, right? Right? To correct a sensational lie or misinformation in the media takes a whole lot. Like, just psychologically, it takes multiple exposures to corrective information from multiple sources to correct a single lie that was attributed trust, right? If a bad headline comes out in something that I have decided is a trustworthy source, I have to see multiple things correcting that headline from other equally trusted sources, right? Just for my brain to give it equal weight. That's cognitive bias. It's just the way we're hardwired to screw up.
My fear, and this was a similar sentiment that I expressed to KPD, is that in regards to her trying to get her side of the story out,
Yeah.
the truth almost doesn't matter if the people don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Like, and it seems like we are at that kind of precipice, right? We're standing on the edge, and there are a few people screaming, saying, "Hey, there's a cliff ahead," and then you have some people saying, "There's no cliff. Just we're gonna keep on walking forward."
It's all fine.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's gonna be a bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, people falling with their eyes closed, swearing they're not falling because they don't want to be wrong about the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they know there's a cliff, and they just, if they say that there's a cliff, they know shit goes sideways for them. So they're willing to walk off that cliff with everybody else.
Very short-sighted. Yeah, I'm sorry. So again, I'm sorry to apply a little more jade. It's
You're scaring the fuck out of me, Thomas. It's good though. It's good for my own sanity of trying to figure out what is actually happening. And I think it is incredibly valuable for the people that are going down that same path of trying to figure out what is the truth in this story, because there is a lot out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people looking into it. I mean, again, like the en masse whistleblower experience that I had recently over a couple of waves now. It's not all on topics that we've talked about, like just vast arrays of citizens and former county employees and current county employees that were like, this is what we're fucking up right this minute. Like, these are shady things that have happened just now, and it's going to be a long process of correction. There's no event that's going to fix this. There's a process that's going to fix this. It's going to take multiple elections in lots of different things. Boring elections, really boring elections, like water district elections, like school board elections, like whole just apparatuses of the county that need to be modernized, and that's going to be painful. There's going to be a whole swath of people who are just going to refuse to get trained, because that's what happens when you modernize any large organization, right? And in a government setting, you can't just like lay them off.
Are you optimistic that those necessary changes are going to take place? Obviously, there'll be pushback regardless, but do you think that it's gonna... Yep.
Optimism.
There it is.
Optimism. I tend to intentionally temper optimism within myself.
You can get carried away with it.
No, it's just a route to disappointment.
Well, I mean, I like, that's the natural inclination, right? Is you get optimistic and you get hopeful, and then you get let down when you get there.
Yeah. I try to maintain hope, but I don't let it inform my plans. I can hope for people to do the best case scenario, but I have to prepare for them to just shit the bed at every turn. Am I confident that these changes will get made? Yes. Am I confident they will get made quickly? No. Am I confident they will get made painlessly? 100% not. Am I confident that they will get made? Yes. I think I'm not at critical mass yet with the coalition, but I absolutely think there's enough people that think like you and I think, and that are just mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. I watch that clip every now and then just to remind myself that get off your couch, get out the window, shout mad, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take
clip?
it. Network. It's 1976, 1978. It's a movie from the 70s. It's Oh, it's great. It's fantastic.
Oh, I'll have to watch
It's
it.
a seminal work of art. But Albert Finney has a famous speech where, I don't know what to do about all this thing and about that thing, but what I do know is I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore, and nothing's gonna change until you get mad as hell and you're not gonna take it anymore. And I want you to stand up. And it's very very big, powerful monologue. But I didn't know that I had an Albert Finney impression deep down in me, but but yeah, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. And there's a lot of other people that are also mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. And the thing that we have to do, we talked about that optimism and hope. It's that people think that there's no way, there's no method. What am I going to do? Vote him out? Then I got to vote. But, they send you a ballot now. Fucking vote. But don't just vote. Get involved.
And be informed in your voting.
Yeah.
Because voting carelessly is almost as dangerous as just not voting.
It's true. And find good sources of information. Ask them tough questions. And on local politics, call them. Call the candidate. Say, hey, what the hell's with this thing or that thing or the other thing? Because it's a local election.
And
they're going to answer you.
You have access to it.
You have access to, right? These like the supervisor might live in your neighborhood. The districts are not that big and there's not that many towns in them. Certainly these people are like available to be talked to. You don't have to be the good and the great. You don't have to have given $1,000 to the campaign.
I have access to him, so if some guy doing a podcast can get him on,
you got 2 microphones and a computer. Like,
yeah, if I can talk to some of these people, that just goes to show how easily accessible they are.
Yeah, and should be. And of course, it's local small ball elections. The needle is real easy to tip for Joe Schmo citizen. Get a yard sign. Get your neighbor to get a yard sign. Go on the weekend to your favorite candidate. They definitely need volunteers to go canvass for them. Whoever your candidate is, whoever it is, get involved. If you disagree with me, well, then go get involved, because you at least have to negate the ground pounding that I'm going to go do. Right? For every door you don't knock on, that's one I get. but yeah, that's the thing. But that spirit of civic involvement is not.
It's not there today.
Has not been rewarded well. Right? And there's places where maybe it is. I haven't lived in any of them. But yeah, it's hard. It's gross. And like, I'm generally a pretty nice person. I don't like being mean about all these things, but I'm going to do it. That's the sacrifice that I will make. That little bit of ego that wants to keep my image as just a big old jolly nice guy. No, I'm going to say some mean things. I'm going to do some mean things. I'm going to hurt some people's feelings because things need to get fixed, and that's more important than the way they feel about it or the way I feel about it, right? There's tax money involved. There's services involved. There's fucking children dying. Like this, like at the end, the failure of the county to deliver vital services. We're talking like emergency response services. That's under the county. Like if we can't manage the funds, we're not funding right now. Say for instance, the ambulance service out to Dinsmore, out to the 36, right? Because of all this mismanagement, we don't know exactly how much Measure Z funding that we have. And so there are vital services that have been under Measure Z. We don't know if we're going to be able to fund them anymore. We hope so. But because our finances are such a mess, who knows? So, I mean, we're talking about real consequences. Like a lot of what we're talking about is legal and esoteric and social constructs and contracts and vast amounts of money that only seem abstract because that's Most people have never seen just a duffel bag with $1 million in it, so they can have some sense of like what's being dumped down the toilet. So, and without that, I don't know, without that level of context and urgency and immediacy, you'll just let it go. They're busy. They got lives. They sleep like normal humans. I mean,
Yeah, who has the time to comb through all the data? That's the thing.
it's only not a superpower if you don't use it to fight evil. That's that and all my other neuroses. That's my chant for that. But you know, I nobody has the time alone. Nobody, no, even me. If I was doing this alone, the timeline would be 3 times as long. But we don't do it alone, right?
And sometimes I can't think of the specific quote, but the general theme is that sometimes you have to become a monster to stop monsters. You know?
Yeah, I've
You have to do that
practiced that before.
self-sacrifice.
Yeah, and I've even I made like the super ragey Facebook post that made the news. But I said like these are dirty tools. This is shitty behavior. This is a terrible thing to do to another person. I mean, just like this level of intrusive data gathering. Again, if I was doing it on a private citizen, I would feel bad. But taking these actions in order to correct failures that are affecting people's lives, that's good citizenship, right? We're talking about real people suffering real pain that could be alleviated by better government management. And you know, we talked about this isn't a conspiracy of mustache twirling evil people, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's not the bad you do, it's the good you don't. Right? Who is being failed in this? Right? That $10,000 fine? Nobody. Right? The fact that $28 million worth of invoices were filed improperly and so couldn't be tracked, thus setting back a whole cascade of financial procedures, making those things late. Well, now there's an impact, right? All of the things that are hanging on us having good financial management, I mean, it sounds mean to say, but do we deserve it? Do we deserve federal money getting pumped into DHHS if they can't appropriately track it? If they are failing so miserably that they are having to be accountable to the state AG for corrective action right now, do we deserve it? Right? If this culture exists and this management of funds is so pervasive that people are just like, yeah, we're corrupt. It's just like, is that okay? Like, is that the level of service I'm going to let them provide for my son? It's not. So, you know, and again, not alone. I I expected to be, and I would have done it alone. But as soon as I'm just like, fuck all this, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you, I'm out. My phone lit up. Right, immediately I was not alone. They're like, yeah, you're right, let's do it. People showed up with expertise. People showed up with networks. People showed up with information. Like people showed up, and they keep doing it. When I filed the lawsuit, John Schiff broke it on his website. That day, I got just the best whistleblower call. That was like 4 minutes of Skeletor laughing. Skeletor call, just blah. Somebody was like, "Oh," and they had known before about things, but they weren't directly involved in anything that I had already said, like, oh, here's the SEO report, and here's all this financial stuff, and here's this, and here's that. But when I said, and they're screwing with the election with government resources, somebody's like, oh yeah, nope, that one, I saw that one. So it's every new thing. There's one or two people that are like, oh yeah, I saw that, and I was pissed about it, and we get more, and we get one or two more people to add to the group, add to the coalition. At the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I mean, I know some things that are going to happen with it. Here's my crystal ball prognostication. One, they're going to fail at some point to properly provide documents. At some point, they're going to try to, or inadvertently will omit something important. I'll see the shine off their teeth. I'll go ahead and make that prediction now, because maybe I've already spotted some stuff that they don't want to give me. Maybe I've already had to call out some folks in writing on nextrequest.gov, PRA 22-194 and PRA 22-183. In writing, for attempting to slow play things, or maybe there's things that I know exist that I have requested as part of a larger thing that have not been provided. So that's going to happen. They will fail at some point to follow their own rules, and I'll hit them for that. There will be ramifications for all these things. I mean, everything that gets made public has to be addressed, right? Has to be, right? Somebody cares about it. And the thing is, it's local, so it's so small. 10 people writing letters to the editor are a thundering force in county politics. It takes so little, right? I mean, there was an election year that we were scoping when we were doing some of the cannabis political things, and to get an entire slate of candidates elected, you could have done the whole thing with $50,000. You could have matched every donation they made. Like you could have bought all of the candidates that you wanted for $50,000, right? That's how much was in their coffers total. The money's getting bigger in the last 10 years or so, but still, like, remarkably cheap. It takes so little, a couple of $100, have a barbecue, pass a boot around, everybody throws in a 20 to your favorite candidate. That's huge.
To buy an election for $50,000 is pretty crazy.
Not an election, to buy a ballot, to buy all the elections. Right? This was almost 10 years ago now. But yeah, not a single election, to buy everyone on the ballot. Pretty small change.
Yeah.
Right.
Grand scheme.
Yeah, and there's there's election campaign finance rules and things, but man, we've seen how that stays. Boy, hey, you know what's also very much observed in the breach as far as Humboldt County rules? Yeah, donation procedures and things. That's pretty loose.
Jesus. Thomas, you scared me in a good way, man.
Well, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I think this is the wake up call that a lot of people are going to need. I was worried. I was worried and excited to get you on, because I saw this playing out one of two ways. Either I was going to sit across from you and think, man, this guy, he's a little off his rocker.
That's crazy, motherfucker.
Yeah. Or you were going to come on here and do exactly what you did, which I don't know which one would have been better.
Yeah, we can go back to crazy. I can go back to just crazy conspiracy theorist if you want.
It's just a problem because, I mean, if you were just some crazy guy you could write off, and KPD was just someone who was not good at her job, it's almost more simple, because then it restores your faith. Okay, the system's not falling apart.
That's why it's such an easy narrative to sell.
Yeah, because people you want to believe that. You want to believe that, oh no, somebody's out there taking care of it. It's not It's not a problem.
Fine. This is all fine.
And you can just go about your day. You can just keep on going because there's not a
Oh,
problem.
yeah, just a dog sitting at a table in a room. That's fine. This is fine.
The house is not burning
This
down
is not
around
burning
us.
down. It's warm. Nice
It's
and warm.
warm.
It's
Yeah,
comfortable.
it's the frog in the boiling pot, right? You just, as long as they just slowly increase the temperature, you're
Yeah.
gonna stay in the water.
Yeah, and and it's just like you said, like the common perception amongst the county. We all know this goes on. We all see it. it's it's tough and boring and tedious to dig down to put your finger on. But I'll do that for you. That's fine. I'll do it. I'm mad. And every time it feels too tedious, I just crank open the rage vault a little bit, scrape a little off the top, put it back down, make sure it's sealed tight, and take that little spoonful, put it in the tank, and then read another spreadsheet. Because it's dismally tedious. If I didn't have a certain sort of background, a certain sort of training, already doing data analysis, and already fascinated by like good data, no, like most people would bounce right off of this, and that's another way that it stays obfuscated.
It's insulated that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing like stock market shit, right? It's why in the 20s, like it's why you get these speculative booms, and it's why it's all wrapped in these all this weird jargon and things. It's to make it so complicated that your average investor can't see the shell game.
Well, we're there right now. All this money that was just passed around, and then now it comes time to start paying the piper.
Mm-hmm. And it's one thing on the market if Joe Schmo millionaire turns into Joe Schmo 100,000aire. I mean, it's less laughable when some union pension tanks because of fucking Bernie Madoff or somebody. But when it's tax money, oh motherfucker, like then it's on and cracking. Like that's public funds for public services. That's not anybody's play money. That's not anything that anybody could have afforded to lose.
Well, it only ever hits the middle and lower class the hardest.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
It always falls on them.
Yeah,
all the time.
The people who are getting these services from the county are not making six figures. They're not members of the Ingomar Club. They're the exact opposite of that. Right? They're the fucking tribe. They're underprivileged kids. They're the homeless that we love to demonize. Right? These are the services that are failing to be served. Like child welfare services was one that we just looked up. You can't fail at child welfare services. You can't. That's not okay. Right? That is an important social task. Right? There's a reason that the ACE score for kids is off the charts here, and it has a lot to do with child welfare. All of this comes down to money at the end, right? All of these numbers have people's lives attached to them, right? Every taxpayer that sent something in gave that so that their community would be better, with the understanding that we pay into a social contract and it keeps the people with the least from falling off the map. So when folks really want to serve a bunch of high dollar donors and they want to do favors for their friends and it costs services to children, that's what the fuck kind of society do we live in? Right? That's
Well, I'm glad that you're out there doing this.
well, thanks.
I think that's important. And
Thanks.
I'm excited to see where this goes. We're definitely gonna have to have you back on.
100%.
Yeah.
I already made you promise. As soon as I can make some of these bombshells public, like I will. If if not stopped by some very reasonable, unexpected behavior from county leadership, I will absolutely be back with some whistleblowers, and you can interview them.
Okay, well, I'm excited for that. I'm
Right.
excited to see what happens with all this because the deeper I dig, it seems like the more there is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's a lot. It's widespread, and it's yeah, some of it's ugly.
and it's important to get this out there.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on. Really, I really enjoyed sitting down and talking.
Happy
Even
to.
though
This
I
has been a
feel,
lot of fun.
yeah, even though I feel,
right. I'm glad I could come and make you feel gross.
yeah, that's important. It's important though, and it's important that people hear that.
Yeah.
And this side of the story gets out because it's been desperately unreported.
Yeah, uncomfortable truth is that way. I love there was a quote I saw on a TED Talk. Most TED Talks are trash, but they have great quotes. And it was about that feeling you get when you discover that you're wrong about something. And it feels bad.
Very
And
visceral. We can all relate to that.
And you want to defend whatever position you just decided was you've always held that was wrong. But when you're wrong, that feeling right there. If you can just redefine that visceral reaction in your head as the first moment that you were ever right, then it becomes a positive. You're right. Yes. You can redirect that to correcting all the things you did wrong instead of defending all the things you did wrong. And that's the optimal outcome, right? That's the taking that visceral cognitive bias lizard brain, or challenging my authority, my pride, my ego. I tell people, and I'll go ahead and throw this one out there. The first thing a leader has to sacrifice at the altar of the cause is their ego. Has to die first. Otherwise, you cannot serve others. Right? You cannot work with the level of empathy to provide real service in a leadership position if your ego is anywhere in the mix. Right? Because that's that moment that you want to defend. That's what you're defending, is your ego, your history of thinking that you were right. Right? Just be wrong. It's okay. Acknowledge the mistake. It's just a fuck up. Don't make it a cover up. Just let it go. Fix it. And then we can all move on better. But fighting the fix wastes resources on both ends. So hopefully we can do this as painlessly as possible.
I'm not so sure, but I'm interested to see.
I'm ready to do it
painfully.
I
can tell.
I try very hard to be diplomatic and measured, but at 2 a.m. when I have the music on and I've gone through a day's worth of spreadsheets and I'm quitting smoking. I'm just in the garage pacing and doing 2-step turns for my keto to center myself and thinking, I'm gonna burn it all down. I'm just gonna burn it all down. But by the morning, I'm usually reasonable again.
Well, we'll see if they push you to that point.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, on this one. And that's the thing. Like, some things are going to get more pushback than others. Some things are going to be bigger problems than others. Some things are going to require more action, more disciplinary action than others. The other half, though, that I want to end with, and that I absolutely have to spotlight again, as I did at the beginning, is that the other half of this project, the thing that this is going to do most often, is spotlight the good actors, the people who are keeping this whole thing running anyway. Right? See, that's the thing. We talked about all these problems and all this malfeasance, inefficiency, ego, this, click that. But a lot of services are still getting done. A lot of lives are still being positively impacted, and that is due to that 90% of county employees that are showing up every day and crushing it and rescuing people's services from the toxic workplace environment that is being established in various places by various people. Right? It is a toxic minority creating this problem. It is a competent majority that gets anything done despite it. And so they deserve to be and will also be highlighted as part of this project.
Yeah, that's
Right.
good. That's a good aspect.
One of the coalition wants to put on like full on 2 award shows a year, one for the good ones and one like the Razzie Awards for, least transparent.
Well, sometimes you have to amputate to save the body, and I think that could be potentially where we're gonna find ourselves.
Yeah, cauterize necrotic tissue. It's just gonna go gangrenous.
All right, well, Thomas, we can end on. We did 3 hours, man.
Holy crap!
I know you have places to be. I gotta get out of here myself. Where can people find? Where do you want to plug? Where can people find you? Find the coalition?
Coalition.org. The Transparent Humboldt Coalition. That's where all these documents live. Every one that goes up, it's in the development phase right now, so it's going to get prettier and sexier as we go along. It's where eventually the machine will live that will automate these public requests. It's where members will be able to check the data and go and tinker with the AIs and push buttons on Maltego on our own server eventually. That's where all of this is going to live. thcoalition.org.
Okay. All right. Well,
thanks for having me.
Dude, I had a blast. Really. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, this was great. This was great. 3 hours.
Yeah, I know it. Time flies in here. It's like a little casino.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, Thomas. Really.
Happy to. I'll let you do your outro. Click.